Welcome to the Wedge. And in today's show, we'll be covering Week 3 as we'll be making our quick picks, our fantasy fortunes. We'll have the weekly rewind from Week 2, as well as upon further review for the Thursday night game. But let's get started with the quick picks. Quick picks! Starting off Week 3, on Thursday night football, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm taking the Falcons. Then on Sunday at 1 o'clock, we have the San Diego Chargers at the Buffalo Bills, and I'm taking Buffalo. Then we have the Tennessee Titans at the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm taking the Bengals in this one. Baltimore Ravens are going to Cleveland to face the Browns, and I'm taking the Browns at home. Then the Dallas Cowboys are going to St. Louis to face the Rams, and I'm taking the Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers are going to Detroit to face the Lions, and I'm taking the Lions. The Indianapolis Colts are going to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars, and I'm taking the Colts in that game. The Oakland Raiders are going to New England to face the Patriots, and I'm going with the Patriots in that one. The Minnesota Vikings are going to New Orleans to face the Saints, and I'm taking the Saints in that game. Then we have the Houston Texans at the New York Giants, and I'm going with the Houston Texans. The Washington Redskins are going into Philadelphia to face the Eagles, and I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles in that one. So that's it for 1 o'clock. Then at 4 o'clock, for the San Francisco 49ers going to Arizona to face the Cardinals, and I'm taking the Cardinals. Then we have Denver. The Broncos are going to Seattle to face the Seahawks, and I'm taking the Seahawks in the rematch of the Super Bowl. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Miami Dolphins, and I'm taking the Dolphins. Then on Sunday Night Football on NBC, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Carolina Panthers, and I'm taking the Panthers in that game. Then the next day on Monday Night Football, we have the Chicago Bears at the New York Jets, and I'm taking the Jets in that game on Monday night. So that's it for my quick picks. Quick picks! And now it's time for Fantasy Fortunes. Fantasy Fortunes! And this week, Week 3, at quarterback, I've got Drew Brees from the New Orleans Saints going against the Minnesota Vikings. That game's in New Orleans, so Drew Brees should have a huge day, because there's no way the Saints are going to go 0-2. I also got Matthew Stafford from the Lions going against the Packers. That's also at home. Then at running back, I've got Trent Richardson from the Indianapolis Colts, and they're going to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars. He had a big game on Monday night, even though they lost. But they should bounce back against Jacksonville, and he should be a big part of that. We also got LaShawn McCoy, the Philadelphia Eagles, going against the Redskins. That's in Philadelphia. And Shady McCoy should run all over the Washington Redskins. Then at wide receiver, I've got Megatron, Calvin Johnson, going against the Packers. As I said earlier, that game is in Detroit. I've also got at wide receiver Mike Wallace from the Miami Dolphins, as they are at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. As Mike Wallace should make short work of their defense, and he is Ryan Tannehill's favorite target. Then at tight end, we've got Greg Olsen from the Carolina Panthers, and they're facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's in Carolina, and Greg Olsen is definitely one of Cam Newton's favorite targets for sure, and definitely one of his most familiar targets on a team with a lot of new faces this year. Then at kicker, I've got Matt Bryant from the Atlanta Falcons, and they'll be hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football. I expect Bryant to have a big week. He had a big week in Week 1. We'll see what he can do here in Week 3. Then on defense, I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals at home against the Tennessee Titans. The Bengals have one of the stingiest defense in the NFL, especially when they're at home, as last year during the regular season they were 8-0 in Cincinnati. I expect them to beat the Tennessee Titans and cause some turnovers and possibly even score some touchdowns on defense. So those are my fantasy picks for Week 3. Fantasy Fortunes! And now it's time for the Weekly Rewind. In the Weekly Rewind, we go over the week that was. So let's take a look at Week 2. And Week 2 was a rough week for us here at 21st Sports. As myself, I went 6-10 in my picks, my quick picks, and the dreaded Pirate Redbeard was 5-11. We also struggled big time with our fantasy picks, as they did not produce very well in Week 2. But that's the thing early on in the season. You know, it can be tough to pick games and see really where things are at. You just got to keep moving forward, and hopefully the picks get better. I feel really good about the picks for Week 3. I think I might get as many wins in Week 3 as I have combined in the season so far. But looking back at Week 2, I mean, it's pretty rough. We saw, some upsets and some interesting games. I'm also kicking myself a little bit for some of the picks that I made, and some of the things, I saw. I kind of thought it might go that way, but then I ended up talking myself into a loss. And definitely, like with that Thursday night game starting off, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, should have known better. Baltimore plays so good at home that they wouldn't lose to the Steelers like that. Also, we see, Buffalo, we got to give them respect as they beat the Dolphins. They're in Buffalo, and they're in first place in the AFC East. And who thought after 2 weeks the Buffalo Bills would be in first place over the Patriots and the Dolphins and the Jets? So lots of surprises. Also, that extremely exciting game in Cleveland between the Saints and the Browns. Talk about excitement. I mean, who thought the Saints would go down 0-2? In the last 60 teams to make the playoffs, only one of them has started off 0-2. I believe that was the Panthers, actually, last year, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that. Leave me a comment below if you know if that's right or not. I have to look that up. But as it were, though, I expect the Saints to bounce back. I don't think they're going to be 0-2, go to 0-3, especially when they're at home coming up. But they started off 2 tough road games, especially that game in Atlanta, and then the Browns coming back to win. They show that they actually do have some talent. They're a tougher team than people give them credit for, even without Josh Gordon. Just imagine if they actually had Josh Gordon. Then we see the Cowboys, they lost at home to the Niners, and Tennessee had went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, but then in Week 2, the Cowboys go to Tennessee and beat the Titans. What's up with that? I mean, really, come on. Who are you guys? Who are the Cowboys? Who are the Titans? Of course, Kansas City was banged up when the Titans went into Arrowhead and beat them, and the Cowboys are they're really who you think they are. They're an 8-8 team that's going to go bouncing back and forth each week, and you never really know what games are they going to win, what games are they going to lose, when are they going to show up. Tony Romo was trash in Week 1, couldn't find a receiver, couldn't read a defense, and then he comes out in Week 2, shows up, and puts 26 points on the board, along with some help from his team, obviously. But so I mean, really, who saw that one coming? And I'm kind of kicking myself. I'm a little biased going for Detroit and Carolina. Should have known better. Of course, the Panthers at home, Cam Newton back, that tough defense. The Lions looked so good on Monday Night Football, even though it was against the Giants. But I don't really take too much stock in that in terms of, I still think Detroit's a really strong team, regardless of that loss in Carolina. You can't really fault the team for going into Carolina and losing. The Panthers at home, they're 2-0. That's just crazy too. Pretty sure they were 0-2 starting last year, and now they're 2-0. In a season where most people, including myself, thought that they were actually going to take a step back. But here they are with a better record, a better start. So are they making a step back, or are they taking a step forward? We'll see as the season progresses and we get closer to the halfway point. We're halfway to the quarter point, so plenty of football left to play. 14 more games for every team and 15 more weeks until the playoffs. Then also, the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Redskins. I mean, who saw that coming? Who thought that the Redskins, especially after RG3 and Deshaun Jackson go down, Kirk Cousins would come in and lead them to 41 points in the victory? And I know people don't really respect the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I really do think they're better than that. I mean, geez. Then we got, with the Rams and the Bucks, that one right there. Talk about a heartbreaker for the Bucks fans, losing by 2 points on Derek Brooks' day, and the way they lost too at the end. When the time ran off, there was 8 seconds left. Evans goes down. They run off 10 seconds. Not that it would have been any different, really, with where they were on the field, but hey, you never know. One more play, they get out of bounds. Maybe they go for like a 60 or 70 yard field goal, and Crazier things have happened, right? Anything can happen in the NFL, but that one really, showed that anybody can win, and even the Rams, they're gonna win some games, even with the third string quarterback. The Bucks, it's gonna take time before they really settle into Lovey's system. They're gonna be better than last year, even though they're 0-2. It's still early, and like I said, the Bucks will improve. To see, how Josh McCown, if he can get things together, because he's not looking very good so far. They spent all that money to go pick him up in free agency after what he did, for the Bears there, even though he wasn't really, he didn't get the Bears to the playoffs, but he did put up some numbers last season, and he's failed to put up those numbers in Tampa, even though he does have some really big targets. Vincent Jackson, Mike Evans, of course, they said he went down at the last play of the game. Those guys are tall. Get them the ball. What's going on in Tampa? And we also the Seahawks. Who thought the Seahawks were going to San Diego and lose? Of course, you gotta give the Chargers credit. And really, I'm not shocked that happened. Like I said, you look at upon further review, I was talking about how the Chargers, if anybody could do it, it would be them. That they actually, they beat Denver last year in Denver, even though Denver then went into San Diego and beat them in San Diego. But Denver, there was the top team in the AFC last year. So San Diego shows that they show up when their competition level is high. And going against the Seahawks, they showed up, and Phillip Rivers was going at that Legion of Boom, and he found Antonio Gates for 3 touchdowns. As they really, they surprised a lot of people. And I did pick the Seahawks, so I didn't necessarily really think the Chargers win, even though I did think they had a chance, albeit I thought it was a small chance. And to see they actually won by 9 points, very impressive for the Chargers. The fans in San Diego got to be ecstatic about that victory. When you go look at the primetime games, the Niners and the Bears. Who thought that the Niners would lose to the Bears in the home opener at Levi's Stadium, the first regular season game ever played in Levi's Stadium, and the Niners lose to Chicago a week after the Bears lose to Buffalo in Soldier Field? And the Niners have beat Dallas in Dallas. And then now they're going to lose like that? They let Brandon Marshall get those 3 touchdowns, but we're seeing now that the Niners, they looked very for real in week 1, but now in week 2, we see that the injuries are catching up to them pretty quick. As they jumped out to that early lead early on, but then they fell apart. And in the second half and in the fourth quarter, they lost this game. As when your defense is depleted because of injuries, it's tough to actually play 60 minutes of football. And as the season goes on, we're going to start seeing those effects, even though they still have lots of talent. But those guys can't play every single play for 60 minutes. You can't have Patrick Willis and Justin Smith can't do everything. So we'll see where things go from here for San Francisco. Sad to say, it looks like that's kind of a sign of things to come, more so than that Dallas game. But we'll see as the season progresses. And then on Monday night, the Eagles going into Indianapolis. And for the first time in Andrew Luck's career, he is 0-2. Who saw that coming? I'm sure plenty of you did. And leave me a comment below to let me know if you did. And tell me why you thought that was going to happen. Because I didn't think it was going to happen. Of course, the dreaded Pirate Redbeard, he saw it coming. Should have listened to him. But I thought Andrew Luck would pull it off. Even though I did, you looking upon further review, I was saying the Eagles defense had a slight edge, but I just thought the Colts, that their offense, and Andrew Luck, of course, you see with Darren Sproles in that backfield, and when they switch between Darren Sproles and LaShawn Shady McCoy, that Eagles defense, or the offense, is dangerous. Those guys right there, both of them are capable of big runs and big receptions, big plays. They're playmakers. Get those guys the ball in open space. They make the defenders miss. Guys can't tackle them. And I don't see how defenses are going to stop that Eagles offense if they can play the way they did on Monday night. And if they can stay healthy, man, these Eagles are looking to be the front runners for sure to repeat and their division as champions. But it's a long season, so and they're starting off good, 2-0. So the Philadelphia fans got to be very happy about that, and the Colts fans got to be shaking their heads and wondering what is happening there in Indianapolis. Is they're now going to have to chase the Texans all season long. The Texans are now in first place. But mainly just going over, those are the games that I picked wrong. All the other games were right, which was only a few, not very many. The Bengals and the Falcons, not really surprised. The Bengals at home, I'm not going to pick against the Bengals at home all season. I'll tell you that right now. And, the Patriots, a lot of people thought the Vikings are going to win that game. They're crazy. I knew the Patriots were going to win. They won big. So, Patriots are not a team that loses 2 games in a row. That don't happen. It does not happen. And the Cardinals, another, exciting tight game going down to the final quarter. They won it more decisively on the road in New York, took care of the Giants, even without Carson Palmer. As we saw, Drew Stanton, the former Michigan State Spartan, as he came in there and he did what was needed to be done. And the defense did the rest, and the freaking Cardinals beat the Giants in New York. So that was impressive. I really think the Cardinals are going to get the Seahawks a run for their money in that division there. It's going to be very exciting. That's one of the toughest divisions in football. 4 teams that are very strong. Of course, the Rams, if they had Bradford, they'd be competitive, but they need this, quarterback, as I've stated before. And we also got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Broncos. That game right there, the Broncos won. But the really interesting thing was that Kansas City made it interesting in the end, which is something, I've noticed with both games so far for Denver. They're 2-0, but in both games, they start off, both games are like the same game. Peyton Manning, 3 touchdowns in the first half, no touchdowns in the second half. Big lead for Denver in the first half, and in the second half, they just hand the ball off to Monty Ball, try to kill the clock, and let their defense just hold the other team off and hope that it's enough to win the game. That might, have worked in the first 2 weeks of the season, but it ain't going to work for long. They're going to, they ain't going to win the Super Bowl if they continue to play like that. They need to play 60 minutes. They can't just keep playing these, 30-minute games and then just hoping that the lead holds up in the second half, putting all that pressure on their defense to, shut it off in the second half. That's just not how you win games. It's worked so far. We'll see if they can win the division playing like that. Of course, I expect them to make the adjustments, and I expect the Broncos to play better, but they definitely, I'm sure that they are very aware of, the necessity to play a full game and to start getting, their offense moving more in the second half. Like, why are they cooling off? Why can't they move the ball in the second half? Why can't they get into the end zone in the second half? Teams are making adjustments at halftime. Those defensive coordinators, first for the Colts, then for the Chiefs, have figured out something they're looking at in the first half, and then in the second half come out and shut Peyton down. I mean, you hear him in the press conference, Peyton saying, hey, it's not like we're not trying to move the ball in the second half. They are just shutting us down in the second half. They're making the adjustments, so they got to work on that there in Denver. It's the fans there should be a little bit concerned, although the Broncos so far, even with their offense not being as prolific in 2014, their defense is better than it was last year, and defense wins championships. So are they really got something to worry about or not? Well, we'll see. And we also saw the Packers, even up their record to 1-1, they beat the Jets. That was an exciting game. Very interesting. We see that Geno Smith is coming into his own, but it's tough to win in Lambeau. And Aaron Rodgers airing it out to Jordy Nelson late in that game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers airs it out with the best of them. That's his specialty, throwing the long bomb. And when you can score like that real quick, you're never out of it. So the Packers, any game they play with Aaron Rodgers' arm and Jordy Nelson, their receiver, you can surely bet. And also Randall Cobb, don't forget about him. But you can be sure they're always going to be in it, because it only takes them about a minute to score. So they'll definitely be a fun team to watch all year long. And of course, the Texans, they went into Oakland and they made short work of the Raiders as J.J. Watt even scored a touchdown. So what doesn't J.J. Watt do? But that's it right there for the quick picks for the weekly rewind. Now, looking at the fantasy, it was an abysmal week for the fantasy fortunes. Peyton Manning, he had his 3 touchdowns. He was really the only highlight of my fantasy picks. Stafford, put up some points, but really not the numbers I was expecting from him. And the real abysmal performance, of course, you can't blame him because he got injured, and that was no Sean Moreno. Who knows? You don't know a guy's going to get injured. And no Sean goes in there and gets hurt, and it's like, oh, man. I feel like I hope I'm not the Madden curse all of a sudden. Guys I pick end up going down. What's happening here? But, we wish him well. Hope he has a speedy recovery and a quick return, and that he's just healthy, regardless of football. Yeah, so LaShawn McCoy did alright. He put up some numbers, but the receiver Megatron, not the numbers I was expecting. He only had 8 points. That was very disappointing for Megatron last week. Antonio Brown, he put up some points, but not what I was expecting. He really, but that was also another case where he got injured. There was, he got lit up. They took him to the locker room to see if he had a concussion because of the new concussion rules and everything. They got to make sure the guys are all right. They didn't sustain a head injury. That's good because that's for the player safety. Definitely. That's very cool that they do that now. But that's the reason why he didn't put up fantasy points. He came back to the game, while he was on the field, he was producing, but he just wasn't on the field for half the game. So, the guy's not going to put up points, and you can't really predict that kind of thing. You don't know that that's going to happen. Greg Olsen didn't really put up much points either. He got some. You don't really expect a lot of points from a tight end. I wish I'd gone with Jimmy Graham there, but. And Mike Nugent, this guy, he was the real disappointment of my week. He kicked 5 field goals in week 1 in the first half, and then in week 2, he goes 1 for 4. He missed 3 field goals. It's like, what the heck, Mike Nugent? Are you kidding me? It's like, you're off the team, Mike Nugent. Never again, Mike Nugent. I ain't falling for that Mike Nugent again. 5 field goals in the first half 1 week, and then missed 3 field goals the next week. You gotta be kidding me. Of course, one of those field goals was a 55-yarder right before halftime, and you can't blame him. So, but the other 2, come on, man. Come on, man. And then the Tampa Bay defense. What? Come on. I can't believe the Tampa Bay. I thought they had defense. What the heck? I guess I just am getting ahead of myself. Got too excited about Lovie Smith being back in Tampa. Because they can't even stop Austin Davis, the 3rd-string quarterback of the Rams. Really? They didn't let him put up much points, but they didn't really perform either. 4 points for my defense, wow, Whereas I thought they were going to put up huge numbers. Obviously, that's why I picked them. So, fantasy took a huge hit in week 2. But that's alright. And now it's time for Upon Further Review. Upon Further Review! And on Thursday Night Football, we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. And this game is going to be simulcast between CBS and the NFL Network. You can catch that September 18th at 8:30 p.m. So the Buccaneers going into Atlanta as these 2 NFC South rivals faced off. We saw the Falcons after that big win in the division against the New Orleans Saints in week 1. Then they went to Cincinnati, and they had a disappointing loss against the Bengals. But the Bengals are one of the toughest teams to beat, especially when you go into their home. So don't really necessarily put too much stock in that as a loss. You can't really fault the Falcons for losing in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's just that good, especially at home. So it doesn't really detract from the Falcons as a team. You can still, it remains to be seen how competitive they're going to be this year. That big win against the Saints is going to go a long way, especially with the Saints starting out 0-2. Of course, the Panthers are 2-0. The Falcons are right there in second place at 1-1. And then we have the Bucs and the Saints both at 0-2. Of course, it's only been 2 games so far. But now we got another NFC South game for these 2 teams. Is the Bucs are desperately in need of a win, and the Falcons can could go a long way towards potentially winning the division if they can pick up another win in the division, especially at home. If they want to compete for the title and challenge the Panthers, they can't afford to lose at home division games. With the Bucks, they really, they had a heartbreaker there that they lost to the Rams. They really, they could have won that game, and it's sad to see a game end the way that one ended. And then they lost that game in Carolina in Week 1 by just 6 points, because that was a tough loss as well. So it's a tough season, a tough start for Tampa Bay, but they can get things going. They can get things together. It starts off with their running game. They got to get things going on the ground. McCown, he's got to get things together. He's not putting up the numbers. He's got to air it out to Jackson. Hopefully Evans is healthy. Of course, he went down on the last play of the game. But he's got those big targets. Get them the ball. Air it out to them. And I'll tell you, they can run. They really can run. Bobby Rainey, that guy right there, he should be on Fantasy Fortunes, because Bobby Rainey, he is a threat. That guy, you see what he did last year. I don't know why he's on the third string for Tampa. He should be their starter. Of course, they got so much talent in that backfield. Martin and James and Rainey, those guys can run. You got a running attack like that. Utilize it. Let's see them really, eat up that time of possession and freaking, if you got to kick field goals, kick field goals. You got some defense there. Tampa Bay, I think they're talented. It's just a matter of time, As the season goes on, they're just going to get better and better. Are they good enough right now, though, to go into Atlanta and beat the Falcons? I really don't think so. I think that the Falcons should win this game. They should win it, actually, pretty decisively. They shouldn't have too much trouble with the Bucs. Although the Bucs, you saw last year, even without the personnel they have this year, they're a better team this year. But last year they actually almost beat Seattle in Seattle, for those of you that remember that game. And the Seahawks ended up having to tie it up and force the game into overtime before the Seahawks won in overtime. So, the Bucs, they could, go into Atlanta and shock everybody and actually make this a game. But more than likely, we're going to see Matt Ryan performing more like he did in Week 1, less like he did in Week 2. We're not going to see those interceptions, I wouldn't imagine, of Week 2. We're probably going to more likely see the touchdowns like we did in Week 1. And he's got the targets. Julio Jones is, performing extremely well. Roddy White, he's a very talented receiver. We got Steven Jackson and Rodgers on the ground. The rushing attack, get them the ball. Rodgers has looked really nice. He's only had 11 carries, but he's got a 5.2 average. So that's a very nice compliment to Steven Jackson, who was one of the best runners. We'll see how much he's got left in the tank as this season goes on. But he's definitely a very smart player. He's got a lot of talent. He's been one of the best. And he can catch the ball in the backfield too. So, that offense of the Falcons can put up some points. And I expect them to actually put up a lot of points on Thursday night. If you like seeing Matt Ryan air it out, make sure to tune into that game, because he should be getting some touchdowns. He's another guy you might want to start on your fantasy team if you got him there. So, the Falcons and the Bucs, this game should be interesting, because anytime division rivals go at it, it usually is a good game. And it's Thursday night prime time. I know I'll be watching. Those are my thoughts on the game. I think the Falcons win by a touchdown or more. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Upon Further Review, as well as this edition of The Wedge. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. Make sure to tune back to the 21st Sports YouTube channel, as we will be uploading videos regularly. 99% of the days we upload new videos, and multiple videos at that, so check back every day, especially leading up to the games, as we upload as many as 15 to 20 videos some days, so there'll be plenty of coverage for you. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, and once again, thank you. We appreciate it.